Hi guys, hope you're well. Welcome to 2023, and in today's session we're going to be talking about how to find the best property deals in 2023. Now, before we start, I know there's going to be quite a few that are going to be joining the session because it's literally just gone promptly at 7 p.m. If you wouldn't mind, just in the comments section, you've got on your screen hopefully a little box which allows you to ask questions and create any comments. If you wouldn't mind, just let me know. Can you hear me nice and loudly and clearly? That'd be phenomenal, and then we can get started from there. So we're going to be on session for approximately 90 minutes this evening. So between 60 and 90 minutes gives you plenty of time to ask lots of questions. And within that session, my aim is to be talking about the different types of property deals that we're looking at in 2023, how we're going to be acquiring them, how we're going to be finding them, how we're going to be acquiring them, but more importantly, how we're going to be structuring them as well. So we've got lots that we're going to be covering within the session. So lots of people saying yes, that they can hear me nice and loudly and clearly. Fantastic. We've got a lot to cover. And more importantly, whilst you're typing in your box and whilst we're waiting for more people to join, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick indication, who have we got online? Who are you? What's your background? And this could be very simple. It could be, hi, my name's Rose. I'm a property investor. I'm completely new to it. And also tell me what you're looking to achieve from this session, because then I can tailor this session accordingly. So that would really help me guide us through this session. So let's get started. So first of all, I always start by saying thank you, because I appreciate there's lots of other things that you could be doing this evening, but you've decided to spend some time with me this evening, and I want to say thank you for that. So by the end of this session, I always try and set some goals and targets for what I'm aiming to deliver at the end of this session. So first of all is I want to say how we're going to be looking at how to get started in property with no money and no experience. That's a big claim. I don't mind saying that. How to make cash flow from simply controlling properties. Again, it's a big claim, and we're going to be using live case studies for that. And how to find vendors direct and negotiate the best deals. Again, I'm going to be utilizing this through the case studies that I'm going to be presenting, and hopefully you get a good idea as to how that works. Now, before we start, I appreciate that in the property space, there's lots of people that claim that they're property professionals and they've done this and that and the other. So I want to just give you a little bit about who is Arsh. Now, I've got to say, first and foremost, I'm a property investor. I've been investing in properties for 22 years. I've got quite a significantly decent sized portfolio. And as a result of that, I've learned quite a few things along the way. So I've made lots of mistakes. Not going to say that I'm perfect, but I've made a lot of mistakes. And as a result, I've now been able to perfect the craft so that we don't do that again. Now, one of my biggest, I'd say, my proudest moment in property is when I came up with the idea of creating the Property Investor app. Now, for those that don't know, the Property Investor app is an app, a mobile application that I've created from scratch, where it showcases nothing but just like property investment opportunities. I like to describe it in its simplest form as the right move for property deals. So you no longer have to scroll through. Rightmove does not find you below market value deals. It does not find you does not find you serviced accommodation deals or rent-to-rent deals. We've got lease option deals, we've got commercial deals, we've got planning opportunities, and they're all on the app. So I launched that just under 4 years ago, and it's been phenomenal. We've now got a database of over 50,000 users on the Property Investor app alone. So one of the things that I also like to pride myself is that I'd like to think I'm one of the UK's leading deal traders or deal sourcers, and I trade on average between 500 to 700 properties a year. I'm an Amazon bestseller. I'll talk to you about that shortly. And I also am asked every month to comment and write columns in two very well-known property publications such as Your Property Network and the HMO magazine, and I'm also columnist in other magazines like Blue Bricks, etc. As I said, I'm the author of a book called Boom, Bust and Back Again. And as the title suggests, property's never always been easy for me. I've seen some really good times. I've had some real big knockbacks, but I'm back to tell the tale. And I've helped hundreds of people achieve financial freedom through some of them that have come on some of my workshops. And in lockdown, in the very first lockdown, I released a podcast with all this new time that we had. It's called The Property Rebel. We release new episodes every Tuesday, at 6 a.m. and the 15 minutes I'd like to think of almost like information gold information. So if you've not already done that, feel free to listen to the podcast. Now, we always start sessions with pretty much asking the question, what are your goals for 2023? We all have kind of goals and aspirations and targets that we set ourselves for 2023. Now, I'm a big believer in having a main goal, so understanding what the destination is, but then also plotting the journey. When we talk about plotting the journey, how are we going to get there? What strategies are we going to adopt? How many strategies are we going to adopt? What's that going to do? What's that going to look like? How are we going to approach it? How many calls are we going to have to make? How many steps are we going to have to do to reach our destination? So when we look at a goal, I look at it from a point of view, is it going to be cash flowing? Is it going to be asset building? Is it going to be securing the family's future? Is it going to be able to get me out of the rat race that lots of us find ourselves in? Is it going to allow us to afford additional luxuries? And believe it or not, a big part of tonight's session is going to be talking about, you know, some of the struggles that some of the people are facing. Is it going to be helping some of your children get onto the ladder, or assisting them with getting further on in, you know, university or education, etc.? Or could it be that you're simply looking to create a pension plan? Now, for me, I always put in what my definition of success is. And the reason why I say that is because it's all very well thinking what is success. But for me, I like to think that I can now work where I want, from when I want, and with who I want. And that's a big thing for me, because as much as I love working, I want that flexibility. So understanding that I can do what I want and where I want. So before we get started, I'm just going to go through some of the answers that I've gone through. So Rose says she wants to get in understanding deal sourcing. Okay, brilliant. So I'm interested about sourcing. Okay, right. Ahmed says, let's have a quick. Okay, so Beverly, good to see you again. Fantastic. And then we've got Moses, we've got Nathan. Okay, so Nathan is actually a chartered valuer. Okay, so Nathan, if I remember correctly, I met you at one of the property meets recently. Okay, fantastic. So we've got Tony Singh, we've got Linda, we've got Mark, we've got Louis says, is this seminar live? Yes, it is. Hopefully by me answering that question, Louis, you'll understand that it is live. Okay, so Abdul wants to know, how do you structure a deal? Now, that's a great question, Abdul. We're going to use a live case study to understand how to structure a deal. So let's start from the very beginning. People will talk about deal sourcing, people will talk about deal trading, people will talk about deal packaging. Let me just literally say that they are, believe it or not, they are all the same thing. So whether you're thinking of deal, basically the difference is that you're trying to find a deal, you're trying to find a property and be able to match it to an investor's criteria. So you may have a bank of investors or a list of investors, and what you're trying to do is match them up to properties that you may have found, whether this be on the market or whether it be off market. Now, we'll talk about, you know, the difference between working on market and off market shortly throughout the session. So I like to think it's a service for homeowners where we match investors to property which homeowners have failed to sell. It's also a service to investors where we help investors find properties that they may not have found without your help. An example being, if we've got an investor in Manchester and we've now found a property, let's just say in Liverpool. Liverpool may not have been previously on their radar, but because we structure the deal in a slightly different manner, they may think that this is now an opportunity for them to explore. And as a result, you create a real win-win. You've created a win for the seller, they've sold their property. You've created a win for the buyer because they found a property that they may not have had without your help. And as a result, everyone wins. Now, I'm going to start by saying that why is this now the perfect time to start? Because without telling you how all to, you know, to suck eggs, we've all been and we've all kept an eye on the news. We've all understood what's going on in the world. And right now we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. So we've seen, for those that are already property investors, you've probably seen that some of your mortgage rates have shot through the roof, gone from circa 3% to maybe 6 or 7%. So your interest rates have increased, your monthly payments have increased, and perhaps your property cash, your portfolio is not generating as much cash as it was previously. Now, on a more local level, and this will affect everyone in the country, full stop, is that energy rates have increased. So I don't know about you, but my energy rates, if you think about from not only from a personal point of view, but from a business point of view, if you double up on the mortgage rates increasing and the mortgage payments increasing, along with the energy rates increasing, a lot of the properties, believe it or not, may not be making any money, or they'll be breaking even at best. When we factor in that food and petrol have increased, we're talking about tax and wages stagnating, where wages have not increased with inline inflation. We need to create an additional income stream to assist. And that's why when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, well, what are the best ways that we can do this? What ways can we do this where it's not going to take up much more time than what we've already do or do not have, but also be able to do it from the comfort of our own home? So I'm going to share with you my plans for 2023. My plans for 2023 are very similar to 2022. Is that I want to create the largest network of property sources in the UK, and I want to become the equivalent of Rightmove for property investment opportunities throughout the UK. So I want to become the largest well-known deal trader in the UK, and I want the Property Investor app to become the UK's marketplace for property investment deals. So my goals are very clear, and so that's my destination. That how I'm going to get to that is also part of it. So that is going to be like working alongside estate agents. That's going to be working alongside deal sources like yourself. That's going to be working alongside my off-market opportunities. So trying to find vendors that want a phenomenal service within a very short space of time. I'm going to be aiming to do all this to reach my goal. So let's have a look. I'm going to give you the very basic principles of deal trading. So for those that deal trading, deal sourcing, deal packaging, as I said, all have the same principle. So there's three people involved. So three principles involved. You've got the vendor. This is a person that is looking to sell their property. And if you try and the way that I think best describes this service is if you put yourselves in each person's shoes. So now wherever you're sitting right now, you're sitting in a home, you're sitting in an apartment, you're sitting somewhere. Just imagine that you're looking to sell that property. Now the traditional method would be is that you potentially go to a company like an estate agent. Let's just name one of the nationals, but there are others out there. Let's just say Connells. You go to Connells, you say, I'm looking to sell my property. They come out, they come and put a value on the property, then they put it on the market. And as a result, it's very reactive. It's very reactive because they're putting it on the market, but they've not got a database of people that they can approach with it immediately. What they do, they put it up on Rightmove, and then they're waiting for people to approach them and say, oh, is this property available? Can I come and view it? Now, that's a vendor. So think of their pain and motivation. They want something sold quickly. They want it sold, within a short space of time. Now, you as a sourcer, this is you as a property professional. You may have a slightly better understanding of the property and the investment value of the property than a traditional estate agent would, because we may ask a different series of questions than what an estate agent would. How many times does an estate agent ask, well, do you mind if I ask how much have you got outstanding on the property? Do you mind if I ask why are you selling this property? An estate agent never asks those questions. They seem it to be too personal. Whereas you now come to them and say, guys, okay, tell me a little bit about it. And I'm going to showcase these through the case studies that we're going to do shortly as well. So you're going to understand a little bit more about the owner. You're going to understand more about the vendor and understand why they're selling it, and be in a position to make a better understanding of the property and then try and match make it to the right investor, because you've already got a bank or a list of investors that you can approach. Now, the investor, as a result of you proposing or packaging this deal, this property in a certain manner, hopefully they're going to purchase the property off you because it meets their criteria. And as a result, the investor pays you a fee for your service. Now, you can put in lots of different other elements to this, but let's keep it simple for right now. If I'm going too fast or anything, please feel free to ask and I'll try and answer them as we go along. So Going back to the 3 principles, you've got the vendor. You need to understand what is their pain, what is their motivation. When we talk about pain and motivation, think about you and where you're living right now. Have you ever had to sell a property? Have you ever had to sell a car? Have you ever had to sell something? And this can be something as large, it could be something as valuable as a house, but it could be something as simple as something that you've put on eBay to sell. You've got some motivation. So as a result, what is that motivation? And the one thing I will say, and one of the biggest nuggets that you've got to take away from this, is that the motivation is never always price. So in one of my examples on this session, we're going to be talking about that. We've got to understand, why are they moving? So what are the motivations could a vendor have? Stick them in the comments box. Let's see if you get this. So Juliet says the challenge is getting the investors. Not necessarily. Now, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you, in actual fact, Juliet, the opportunity to work with 50,000 investors on this platform at the end of this session. So stay with us. So what other motivations could there be? So price is one of them. What other motivations could there be? Have a think about it. So Tony says probate, divorce, moving away, abroad, relocation, need to sell, inherited property, 3Ds, death, divorce, debt. Divorce. So you've all got it, you know, you've all definitely started to think about this on a more local level. Think about all the problems and the issues that we face on a daily basis, because your issues and your problems are pretty much the same as someone else's, whether it be magnified or whether it be simplified. You know, the issues remain the same. And once you start to think about it in this way and this method, believe it or not, sourcing actually becomes very easy and very simple. Now, as a sourcer, you've then got to start to think, well, yes, okay, here's a property here. How can we add value to this property? So I'm going to go through a list of things in a second as to what we quantify as a deal, and you can tell me, how can we add value from there on? And then you've got to sit there with the investor's hat on. So you're the most mechanical part of the whole process, because without you, the vendor can't sell the property. Without you, the purchaser won't know about the property. So why would they buy this property? What makes it such a good deal? So are you starting to understand pretty much the gist of what we're getting at now? Now, why I love deal trading is pretty much because, you know, as I've said from the outset, is that there's no tenants, there's no maintenance, there's no bank borrowings, because you're not buying anything. Think about it from, again, a more simplified method. An estate agent, when Connells comes to your property, do they proclaim to buy the property? No, they don't. They're simply trying to facilitate the sale. Can they guarantee the sale of your property? No, they can't, because they're only as good as the leads that they generate. And I'm very clear on that. As a deal sourcer, you can never guarantee that you're going to sell a property, because even then, we can't guarantee that we're going to sell it. The same like an estate agent can't guarantee to sell it. They can guarantee that they're going, or they can put a thing in place or a system in place to see that we're going to put it in front of a certain number of people, but they can't guarantee a sale. No one can guarantee that. So we're pretty much like a glorified estate agent. So it's very much 100% hands-free investing, because you get to see lots of opportunities without having to put your hand in your pocket. You can deal with any property in any town, city or country. And I'm very clear on that, because let's just imagine, going back to my scenario, now Connells, Wolverhampton, really, they're regulated by almost like what is considered their bond for their area. They can only deal with properties in Wolverhampton. The Birmingham branch can only deal with properties in Birmingham. They can't cross-contaminate the areas. Whereas you, as a deal sourcer, you don't have any of that regulation. You can look at any property, any town, any city, any country. Again, I'll give you examples of that shortly. It can be start and stopped when you require. It can be done anywhere around the world, because all you need is a mobile phone and a laptop. And it can be done with pretty much anything. It just does not have to stop at property. More importantly, why I also love deal trading is because we're not buying the property. We don't have to deal with solicitors. We don't have to deal with surveyors. There's no refurbishment works, there's no builders and contractors. So therefore, the risk is absolutely zero, because you don't own anything. There's nothing that can go wrong. The only thing that can go wrong is that you can't sell the property, or you don't sell the property, which is exactly the same as the estate agents, but you're doing it without any of the overhead. So when Connells sets up an estate agency, They've got to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds setting up the estate agency. They've got to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on the marketing of that agency. You can do pretty much exactly the same without actually any of their overhead. So that's why I like it. More importantly, because you're working off your laptop and a mobile phone, you can generate a full-time income from part-time hours. Now, what I mean by that is that you don't need any experience. Now, these are big claims, and I'm going to go through these with you. There's no experience required. It's not a regulated industry. Sourcing is not a regulated industry. Anyone can set up anywhere, and as a result, no one requires. It does not require a lot of time. The more time you put in it, the more properties you attract. The more properties you attract, the more income you're going to generate. It really is as simple as that. So it all depends on how much time you want to put in it. Now, sourcing is a strategy where there's no or very little upfront capital is required. When we say very little capital upfront is required, some people may decide that they want to go off and get fully compliance. So when we talk about compliance, we talk about getting the insurances in place. It talks about getting all the regulations or the registrations in place. It's not, if you're co-sourcing, and we'll talk about co-sourcing, about how to work alongside the property investor app, it's not necessarily required that you get any of that compliance in place. And again, we'll talk about that towards the end of the session. So you can actually start up with no capital. So it can be done, it's one that can be done anywhere and anytime. So again, going back to a point, the more time you put into it, the more chance that you've got of being successful at it. And it's a business that can generate large sums of cash. So we'll talk about some of the deals that we've done where, the average transaction is around £3,000 to £5,000 as a transaction. So if I was going to ask you a question, on your screen right now, you've got a list of what I would think. I'm going to ask you the question, which of these is actually a deal? So it may be a trick question. I want you to read through, and I want you to put in the comments box, which of these would you consider is a deal? Is it buying something below market value? Is it buying a property in need of renovation? Is it something that's already income producing? Is it something producing a good return on investment? Is it something with good capital of growth? Is it something that's sustainable? Is it cash flow opportunity? Is it capital appreciation? Is it opportunity to add? Is it refurbishment? Is it a planning gain? Is it opportunity to take control with little time? Is it opportunity to use someone else's asset in exchange of time? Okay, so I'd like to think that, yeah, we've got the right bunch of people on, because pretty much everyone has said all of them. And this is the thing, is that the reason why I say that is because I don't want any of you to become a one-trick pony. And I'll give you an example why. Is that back when I first started sourcing, in my sourcing journey, I was only looking for below market value opportunities. And I used to advertise in pretty much most publications around the West Midlands. So we used to advertise going back to the year 2000, when we had, local press, newspapers that came through the letterbox. We would advertise in pretty much every newspaper within the West Midlands, and pretty much any publication that came through the letterbox. And our advert was quite simple: we buy property and land for cash, can we buy yours? That was our kind of slogan. And we would get loads of calls, and off the back of that, our back naively, a bit of naivety kicked in. And if the house was worth 100,000, we would literally be saying to people on the phone, have you got a rough indication as to what you're looking to achieve? And we would give them a rough indication that our figure that we would be looking to purchase the property was around 70 to 75,000. We found that a large majority of them said, oh, we're not sure that we want to take that much of a discount. And we would literally just say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, come back to us when you're ready. And we'd put the phone down. Now, this is, if I could go back and turn back time, we would have definitely done this differently, because we could have passed up on tens of thousands of deals that we could have done if I knew then what I knew now. So because then we weren't looking at lease options, we weren't looking at trying to add value, we weren't looking at different methods. You know, some of the strategies that are around today weren't around back then, or they weren't commonly known back then. So when I look at a property deal now, the first thing that I understand, the two words that I mentioned at the start, pain and motivation. Understand what is the motivation, understand what is the angle, why is this person contacting me, and why do they want to sell? And off the back of that, I can then kind of devise what is the best strategy for this property. So I no longer go in like a bull in a china shop and I turn around and say, guys, okay, yeah, your house is worth 100, I'm now offering you 70. Those days are gone. It's now much more of a, okay, so your house is worth £100,000. Okay, so let's understand a little bit about why you're looking to sell. So where are you going? Are you upscaling? Are you downscaling? Are you going through divorce? Are you going through financial hardship? And then we start going on to a different load of questions, such as, you know, okay, how much debt is there left on the property? We try to understand a little bit about the equity position. We're trying to understand the reason why they're selling, the reason why they're contacting us. Have they been on the market? Who with? How long for? So we've got a load of questions that we ask the vendor, and as a result, we can then start to determine, is this a property that we can purchase? Is this a property, at what level can we purchase? And then ultimately, we can ask ourselves the question, okay, well, is there, you know, you may come across scenarios where they actually owe more on the mortgage than the property's worth. Now, in that scenario, you may need to then transact it as almost like a lease option or something like that. That's why I said, don't fall into the trap of being a one-trick pony. Look at every property and apply a strategy that works best for the owner and also the investor. So one of the reasons why I got into deal trading is because I want to see deals first. I want to see the best deals first. So, you know, if you're a deal sourcer and you're a deal packager, if you're approaching the vendors direct, you want to get yourself ahead of the property going onto the open market. So once it's on the open market, once it's on Rightmove and it's on Zoopla, you're now competing with tens of thousands of other investors or other eyes on the property. So if you can get yourself in front of the herd mentality, you're onto a win-win. You know, there's lots of different strategies to do this. Now, remember we talked about showcasing properties. Here's a deal that I've done just before Christmas. So this property, it's actually on the open market. Don't mind saying, it's on the market for circa around £600,000. So the story behind it is that I was actually looking for an office for myself because my current office, we were looking to move. We needed something larger. And off the back of that, we started looking, and as a result, I come across this office. So the office that we occupy is the one that's in the picture. It looks obviously a lot better than what it is now, or in that image. And as a result, I started speaking to the owner. And as a result, I found by trying to find the owner, I got a better deal. The deal that I agreed was something that an estate agent would never have been able to put forward to the owner and understand it in a manner. But as I went direct to the vendor, I managed to do a lease option on this property where I took control of the property for 3 years. And my aim was to raise the income and then sell the property or refinance against the new market value. So even though that the property was on the market for 600, we agreed a deal at £500,000. Now I've actually done a full YouTube video of this property. So if you are on YouTube, feel free to follow me under the handle of Arsh, and you can watch the full breakdown of this property on there. So we agreed 500,000 for this property. We're due to complete on it, believe it or not, tomorrow. The end value, once I've done a bit of work, when I say a bit of work, we've got to increase some of the rents, we've got to get rid of some dead wood within the property. We reckon it's going to be worth between 800,000 to £1 million. Now, also the rental income projection is going to be approximately £100,000. So there's lots of uplift in this property. Now, the good thing with deal sourcing is that I can look at any property and I can look at it from a point of view. Is this one that's going to be for me? If it's not going to be for me, could I, if it doesn't certainly meet my criteria and my parameters, could I pass it on to someone else and could I generate a fee from it? So I always look at it from point of view, can I buy it? Can I sell it? Can I rent it? So if I can buy it, at what level and how, what's the mechanism behind purchasing it? If I can't buy it because the figures aren't right for me, can I sell it to one of my investors? So I always go in with the pillars: buy, sell, rent, buy, sell, rent, buy, sell, rent. Can I buy it? Can I sell it? Can I rent it? Now, if I can't sell it for whatever reason, because it could be that the figures aren't matching, could it be that we then go off and then go through the third parameter, which is, can we rent it? Can we do it on a rent to rent? Can we do it on a lease option? Whatever it may be. But again, it all comes down to the point of pain and motivation. So Tom says, how do you consistently get yourself in front of vendors? Believe it or not, it's actually quite easy. Now, I'll give you the really simple system, Tom. You know, land registry is your best friend. Now, I appreciate that land registry. When you go on land registry, once you put in the postcode, you put in the house number, you've got to pay £3 for that transaction. But off the back of that, you'll get the title deeds or the title register for that property, and as a result, you can then find out the owner and where they live for this property. With commercial property, there are a lot easier ways, and it's absolutely free for you to find out, and we can go through that on a slightly different session. But there are ways that you can consistently get yourself in front of vendors. Now, another example here. There's a property. So the first property was in Wolverhampton, which is my hometown. Now, I'm actually going to give you properties today that I've actually done myself personally. So this is another deal that we did in November last year. So this lady came to me. She had this property and she turned around. She goes, Arsh, I've been trying to sell this property. We had it rented out to a housing association in lockdown #1. They handed it back to me as an absolute tip. And as a result, she couldn't sell it. It'd been on the market for a long time. Now, as a result, I went and I found, I went and done a bit of due diligence on the property, and I thought that the best angle for this property wasn't to sell it in its current condition. So I actually agreed a 5-year rent to rent on the property. Now, as a result, because the works that was needed was quite significant, the vendor was actually prepared to pay for the works, knowing that there was an end user at the end of the conversion that's then going to give them a handsome rent for the property on the basis that it is going to now be fully brand new, and we converted it into a 10-bed HMO studio model, and we utilized it as service accommodation. So out of the 10 as we speak today, seven of the rooms are complete. Number 8 is going to be completed this week, and within 2 weeks the other 2 rooms are going to be complete. Now, the 7 rooms that are already occupied, they're generating quite a decent income. So we're going to be cash flowing approximately £6,000 per month from a property where I've not put any money into this deal, none of my own money, full stop. So I've paid no rent up front, I've paid no deposit, and I've not even paid for the refurb. Again, I would never have got such a deal through an estate agent, because they would never have been able to get their head around the fact that I'm not buying it and there's a different method of acquiring it. Does that kind of make sense? So how much did they spend on it, Stuart asked. So we've spent the best part of £80,000 on the refurb. But I could, on a different day, I could show you pictures of the condition of the property when we took it on, and you can see one of the rooms as where it is right now. And it's a phenomenal property in a phenomenal location. I think we're approximately 1 mile away from Old Trafford football stadium. We're 1 mile away from the Etihad Stadium. We're 2 miles away from the city centre, so it works extremely well. Now, here's a property, believe it or not, that came through us from an estate agent. So not all deals are all done privately. We do quite a number of deals through an estate agent. And remember what we said about being the one-trick pony? There are different ways of adding value to the property, but you've got to have that vision of knowing how to do it. So here's a property that I own now in Wolverhampton. So I was offered this by an estate agent. So it's a property on the right-hand side. So it's just this one here. Offered by an estate agent at £180,000. Now, the property was actually completely derelict. It needed everything doing to it. Sorry, I'm going through the questions. I'll come back to these questions in a second, Zegum and Nadim. So the property needed absolutely everything doing to it. So straight away, I walked in there and I could see that I could add value. At the time, the house was converted into 3 flats. So ground floor, first floor, and second floor, 3 massive 1-bedroom flats. And there were people that were going to view this property and they were offering around 150,000, 160,000 to the estate agent. I went straight into the estate agent and said, guys, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the full 180. The estate agent was quite taken back. And he says, oh, Shika, he goes, just out of curiosity, he goes, no one's offered 180. What do you see that no one else sees? And I was very clear and said, I think I can add more value to this property. We actually got planning permission in place. So our offer was subject to planning. So we actually got the offer of £180,000 agreed subject to me getting planning permission for 6 1-bedroom flats. Now we went and did the refurb. So we got planning permission granted. We ended up purchasing it. As a result, we did the conversion. We now had it valued back at £600,000. It's now generating circa £40,000 per annum and generates a cash flow of approximately £2,000 a month. More importantly, off the back of converting, getting the planning permission, converting it, and get it income generating, we then were able to refinance and get all our money out of the property. And it gives us an infinity in return on investment. Now, I can talk to you about lifestyle properties. So someone approached me with a property. Believe it or not, this property was on eBay. And this is crazy. Who else looks at properties on eBay? So I found this property on eBay, came to us, and they wanted to initially sell it. The vendor lives abroad. I thought maybe that I could utilize this as a second family home in Cornwall. Now, off the back of that, I didn't really want to buy something where I didn't really know the area too well, because I didn't know Cornwall. I've never done anything in Cornwall before. As a result, we structured a 10-year lease option purchase lease option. And as a result, we got a 6-month rent-free period. And now we run that property on a serviced accommodation basis. So when we're not there, it's run on Airbnb. And then off the back of that, it generates approximately £2,000 a month. Again, I would not have been able to do this if I didn't have the skills to source deals. I could talk to you about deals and transactions like this all over the country. Here's a property in Liverpool that we did in, was it 2022, February 2022? Or maybe, sorry, 21. It was just after lockdown. So it was a 3-bed penthouse, sleep 6, as a tied landlord. We went in, did some work to the property. We agreed a 7-year rent to rent with the option to purchase. We got 1 month rent free. Within 12 hours of going on Airbnb, it had 15 bookings at £250 a night. So the reason why I'm telling you all this is because anyone can do these styles of deals. We've just got to get yourselves in front of the right people and asking the right questions. And it really, I make it sound as simple as it is, because believe it or not, it actually is. What we're doing is not rocket science. We're working with agents, we're working with vendors, we're working with co-sources, and we're seeing as many opportunities as we can. And off the back of that, we're looking at the ones, do we want to keep it for ourselves? If we don't want to keep it for ourselves, can we package it up and can we sell it on to an investor? Now, the ones that I've shown you there are just a very small proportion of the ones that we've kept, and not to mention all the ones that we've sold on to investors. Now, before we carry on, I'm just going to talk to you about a young gentleman called Craig. And I call this, can ordinary people succeed? Because here's a person that called me about and arranged a 1-hour consultation call with me. Off the back of that, he wanted to know what he was doing wrong because he had already spent money with another sourcing or training company. And off the back of that, I started speaking to him. I said, well, I think this is where you're going wrong. And we had to just slightly tweak the way that he was approaching it. So he didn't want to hang around, and we arranged then a full-day training in my office. So off the back of that, within an hour, we got him speaking to vendors, agents, and negotiating deals. He thought, and then Craig says, he taught me everything I need to know, so I can go away and find deals and we'll sell for good money. That day when he came to the office, we found a deal that we put out to my investors, and then since then he found 8 deals within the space of a month that he sold through the property investor app. So this is Craig, the property sourcer, sold 8 deals within 1 month, and that was simply by simplifying his process. Lots of people get too wound up with the complexity and try and make it more complex than it actually needs to be. Right, so here's some of the deals that Craig had done. So we've got a property in Worksop, you've got a property in Luton, got a property in Hull. So just so you know, Craig, believe it or not, is actually based in the West Midlands, but he was looking at all properties all around the country. Now, the one thing I will say is that as a deal sourcer, you don't necessarily have to go and view the property. Believe it or not, if you're working with agents, you can actually get the agent to view the property on your behalf. So all you're doing is simplifying and facilitating the sale of the property. So again, he had a property in Worksop, had a property in Luton, and he had a property in Hull. And again, more properties that he had a portfolio of properties in Walsall, he had a 4-bedroom HMO in Burnley, and a 5-bedroom HMO in Boston. Now, we're going to talk about, can ordinary people succeed? I ran a workshop, believe it or not, in, I think it is November last year, and I gave them a 5-day property challenge. How many properties can you acquire in 5 days? And some of the guys, so Salim and Sunny, so Salim managed to get, he thought the information was mind-blowing, and then Sunny managed to get 2 deals that he'd never done anything like this before. Now, Simon, who I think we've actually got on the call, Simon, he said, I learned quite a lot. I definitely put myself out there. Simon actually had a deal agreed in a property in Lee, I believe, or was it Wigan? And that got actually over the line and completed. And then we had Will, who says that I've done this for less than a week, and it's amazing what can be accomplished. So if you're thinking about getting involved, and believe it or not, Will actually got 2 deals over the line, done and dusted. And then we've got Carmina, who's actually a barrister. She actually found 6 potential deals, and then Darren found 8 deals just within the 5-day period. Now, what we're talking about, going back to all the deals that we looked at, or the ones that I looked at there. So we're looking at the office block, that was a lease option. We're looking at the property in Manchester, that was a rent to rent. We're looking at the Cornwall property. Again, we've looked at quite a few lease options there, but I can also look at properties that are below market value, properties that are full market value, and we can also look at other properties. You know, if we go back into 2021, one of my most remarkable deals was that where I purchased a property and the fee that we actually generated was £93,000. Now, that is a needle in a haystack. They don't come along very often, but when they do, they're phenomenal. But there are lots of ways that you can generate larger wins. Now, other deals of 2022, we've got properties in West Bromwich, we've got properties in Birmingham, we've got properties in Surrey, and you would have seen all these on the Property Investor app. You've got another property in Oldham, you've got properties in Wales, Birmingham, Walsall, and again in Oldham. Now, the reason why I say this is because with deal sourcing, we don't have to worry about the fluctuation of the market, because yes, we get the boom, yes, we get the bust, but believe it or not, all we do, you know, if I was to ask you the question, do estate agents worry about the market? No, they don't. What they do is, in actual fact, they start to reprice and restructure the deal accordingly. So for argument's sake, how many times have you been a seller and you had your house on the market for 200,000 and they've come back and said, well, in actual fact, we've not had much activity, can we reduce the price by 5,000? So it's now gone from 200 to 195. And as a deal sourcer, believe it or not, we follow the same principle and the same process. So again, it's not costing us anything. In a buyer's market or in a seller's market, the sellers are in control as the prices continue to increase. We're now in 2023, where we're going to be in a buyer's market because we're in control as properties struggle to sell. So we've got the boom, we've got the bust. So in 21, 22, 20, 21, 22, we've been in a seller's market where prices have increased. Now, in 23, I see that we're going to be in a buyer's market, and we all hear about, so much that prices are going to drop, people are going to buy, people that have got cash are going to be able to capitalize, and this is where we're going to be as a trader. We just adjust the pricing according to the economic climate. Now, we've spoken quite a lot previously about doing deals direct to vendor. I don't want to discount the fact that we also do quite a number of deals through estate agents as well. And the reason why I say that is because Mr. and Mrs. Smith that owns their property, believe it or not, when we do a deal with them, although it's going to be a great deal, they only actually own one property. Now, if you want this to be scalable and you want this to be a strategy that you can really get your teeth into, you have to look for something that's going to be able to provide you leads week in, week out, day in, day out, and month in, month out. And the reason why I say that is because estate agents, how many properties do they have on their books at any one time? They may have 20, 30, 40 different properties on their books, which means that they've got 20, 30, 40 different vendors with different pains and different motivations. Now, if you work closely with that agent, believe it or not, they will find you stock and feed you stock every day of the week. And just so you know, that the estate agents, on average, there's around 53,000 estate agents in the UK. Now, no one is going to be able to service 53,000 estate agents. So when you look at the size of the market, there is more than enough to service. There's more than enough estate agents for us to service across the UK. So when people say, is it a saturated market? No, it's not nowhere near it. Now, one of the questions that I ask, what people ask me all the time is, will agents work with you? Now, let's dispel some myths, because believe it or not, let's think about estate agents. What is their model? Their model is that they have properties that they spend a lot of money on marketing to get on their books. Once that property is on their books, they need to be able to sell it. Whether they sell it to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or whether you work with them to find a buyer, they need to find a buyer any way which they can. Would you agree with that? Do they care where the buyer comes from? No, they don't. So therefore, providing that you're not going and telling them a pack of lies, don't proclaim to be the buyer. Rule number one, don't proclaim to be the buyer. When you're working with an estate agent, don't say, I'm a buyer. Say, guys, I may have some investors that may be interested in this. Would you be interested? Now, why would they work with you? For me, it's very simple. When I work with an estate agent, I say to them, guys, you still make your money from the seller. I make my money from the buyer. I'm going to try and put your property in front of a large database or an audience which you may not have reached previously. And as a result, we're going to aim to find your buyer. You make your money from the seller, we make our money from the buyer. And it really is a win-win scenario. Here's an example of an email. I appreciate, we've got 2021 on the slides there, but believe it or not, we get emails like this every week. I help sell their properties and make it easy work for them. They still make exactly the same commission. It gives them another avenue to market their properties. I make money from a property I simply control, and it's a win-win all round. Now, the reason why I say that this is the easiest method is because they've spent all the money on getting the property. They've spent the money on taking the professional photos. They've spent the money on doing all the floor plans. They've got all the infrastructure to do all the viewings. All we're doing is piggybacking off the back of that. It really is as simple as that. I kind of make it sound a bit too easy. There are lots of different methods that you can do direct to vendor deals. So again, we can do targeted Facebook ads. We can do letters to houses with boards outside. We can go to networking meetings. We can look at property forums. We can do leaflets. We can do supermarket segmenting for those that know what that is. And then on the other side, we can be looking at estate agents, letting agents, auction houses. So there are so many different ways to actually source properties that you should never be in a position where you do not have enough leads to chase. And all information that you require, believe it or not, is all online. So if you're working with estate agents, looking at Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, Spare Room, OpenRent, Gumtree, eBay, and so many more, And I keep going back to this point, no transaction will be the same. So don't fall into the trap of being that one trick pony. Don't just look for that below market value deal, because believe it or not, you're going to be discounting 90% of the other transaction types, and you could be adding value to them very easily. So looking at them, and the one thing that I've said here is that the most strategic will be the most successful. The one that understands the most strategies will be able to be the one that converts the most leads. And that's why I'm so successful at deal sourcing, is because I understand all the strategies. I understand looking what the pain and the motivation points are, what the keywords are in pain and motivation. And as a result, I'm able to structure the deal in a way that creates real win-win scenarios for everyone involved. So going back to the point of looking at some of the deals that we've done, believe it or not, in 2023 already, we've done below market value deals, we've done full market value deals, we've done rent-to-rent deals, we've done lease options. And again, some of these have come from a various number of sources. So some of them have been direct to vendor, some of them have been deals with agents, some of them have been co-sourcing with other sources. And here's a number of other deals that we've got there. We've got, again, Wales, Birmingham, Walsall, we've got Greater Manchester. Now, I do run a program called the Elite Property Tribe. I'm just going to quickly talk about this before we go on to some more case studies. So Elite Property Tribe is pretty much a group of sources that I teach how to source, and we look at all the different strategies. And as a result, they go off and do some of their deals, and we're going to look at some of the deals. Now, if you want more case studies about what some of the EPT members have done, you can go onto the app, go and download the app, which is propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or if you're on the App Store, go to the if you've got a smartphone, go to the App Store, type in Property Investor and download it from there. Now, going back to one of the questions that came in very early on. So someone said, well, how do we find investors? Believe it or not, I'm going to give away a quick tip. You can actually upload your property onto the Property Investor app, and we kind of work on a split fee basis. So you can showcase your property to 50,000 investors immediately. So if you have a look on the app, on the home button, there's a button that says sell your property, upload all the details, upload the photos, upload the information. My team will then appraise it, and then we will then push it live, providing that it meets our criteria. And off the back of that, we'll try and sell it, and we work on a split fee basis. Okay. Now, some of the deals that we've done all sold to investors, which we can all talk about. We'll talk about deals. So what is the Elite Property Tribe? So the Elite Property Tribe is a training program, which is an online training program, which has got 52 modules of online training. And in there, we teach how to source 6 different types of cash flow strategies. And that includes deal trading, rent to rent, lease options, HMO, service accommodation, and commercial to residential opportunities. And what it is 52 modules of online training, and every fortnight on a Monday we then do a live deal clinic session and problem solving webinar with me directly. As well as that, as well as being a part of the EPT, you have the ability to come and shadow me in my office all throughout the year, and you have daily 10-minute calls to discuss opportunities and support. And we have 4 live meetups throughout the year, and you have access to over 400 hours of previous webinars, recording and live meets, and you get to sell your deals to my database, as well as having all access to my useful contacts and our EPT WhatsApp group. So as part of the training, you'll see here, and we're going to go back into some Q&A in this session. On the left hand side, you can see some of the modules that we've got on the actual program. So it's a property education to suit you, and we look at all the different models. So we look at deal trading, we look at rent to rent, we look at lease options, HMO, service accommodation, commercial to residential. So we look at all the strategies as a whole. And as well as that, I always start the program off with what I consider a 5-day property challenge. So with a 5-day property challenge, we also do a day on the phones. Now, for me, I like to throw people in at the deep end. And the reason why I like to do that is because I want you to start looking for deals immediately. I want you to start speaking to vendors and agents. Now, I appreciate that some of you are going to get it wrong to start with, but as a result of doing a day of action, you're going to get it right instantly, because I'm going to be there listening to your calls, understanding what you're saying, and correcting it as and where required. It's going to be a day of appraising deals. It's going to be a day of calculating the return on investment and yields. It's going to be a day looking at the hotspots and looking at supply and demand, and also working with other EPT members. Now, the 5-day challenge, we start, believe it or not, on, I think it's Monday the 6th of February, and the Elite Property Tribe starts on Monday the 6th of February, and it is a full 12-month program. We finish on Friday the 12th, Friday the 10th of February, and we then carry on with the modular learning. Now, off the back of that, you can see that here's some of the guys that have been on the phones and done some of the deals. So you can see that the Elite Property Tribe is a training program, and on the training program we have a Monday night webinar, Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on the Friday we do a live event where it's a day on the phones. So we're going to be teaching you all the different methods as to how to find deals, and off the back of that we're then going to be able to sell the deals via the Property Investor app to the investors that we have on the database. So what the training program is all about, how to find them, how to package them, and then also we sell them to our investors. So we cut out all of the hard work for you to try and find out the investors. So, and we work on the we're working on the 1-day intensive, a day on the phones, where it's going to be Friday the 10th of Feb, and it's a day looking for deals, it's a day speaking to vendors, it's a day appraising deals, a day looking for all the areas, and again working with some of the members. And as well as that, one of the benefits of joining the EPT is that you have the ability to network with my professionals, so access my team of solicitors, accountants, tax and brokers and tax advisors. You get my knowledge and skill base so that you don't make the mistakes that I already made, and the proven success record and highly regarded in the industry. You get access to daily call sessions with me. You have access to my contracts, templates, and you can also sell to my database of over 100,000 people if you include my marketing database too. And we have fortnightly sessions every other Monday between 7 and 9 p.m. We have 4 exclusive live meetups, and they will be either in Wolverhampton or Birmingham with keynote speakers. So just to recap, what is the Elite Property Tribe? So we give each one a accountability journey, and in the accountability journey we're going to be looking at what is your goals, and more importantly how we can get there. So I want you to be writing in your accountability journey, who have you spoke to, what did they say, how did you get on, and more importantly, what do we need to do to follow up. So the accountability journey makes sure so that we can look at this journal anytime and say, where are you, how many calls, and I can then react almost to what you're doing. If you've not made enough calls, I can say, guys, okay, what's going on with these calls? Why are we not making as many calls as you should be making? As well as that, you've got the community. Surround yourself with people who have the dreams, desires, and ambition to help you push and realize your own. So just a recap on what the Elite Property Tribe is. It's a 52 module of online training, and we teach you how to source all the different styles of property cash flow strategies, which is deal trading, rent to rent, lease options, HMO, service accommodation, and commercial to residential. Now, the cost of joining the Elite Property Tribe, we've reduced it, believe it or not, for 2023. We appreciate the pressures that people are under and the financial stress, but we also appreciate the need for people to learn a new skill. So there's 2 options. You can either purchase and you can pay in one go, which gives you full access to the whole program, or we've got a 12 monthly payment plan. It's slightly more expensive because we have to administer the full the credit card transactions, but off the back of that, they're then drip fed every 4 weeks. And also anyone new for 2023, only for action takers, only for tonight of the 8th of Jan, anyone who joins the Elite Property Tribe will also get a free 1-hour strategy session, which means that we're going to be looking at you as a person. We're going to be looking at what your strengths and weaknesses are. Off the back of that, we're going to be identifying locations, identifying strategies, and identifying what your action points are. So that can be done as early as this week. So anyone that's taken action this evening, we're going to be giving a free 1-hour strategy session. So to join, or if you want to know a little bit more about the Elite Property Tribe, we're going to go into a Q&A session in a second, and we're going to be going through, I think we've got quite a few questions surrounding about deal sourcing. So if you want to know a little bit more about the Elite Property Tribe, you can click those links, which is bit.ly/info. Someone has asked a question, can you put these links in the actual chat? Yes, I'll do that. Bear with me a second. Right, done that. Let me just have a quick look. I'll put this in the chat. You've got that there. Right, you've got all those links there, so you can click on those. So there will always be a person that says, Arsh, I can't find any deals. Now, the one thing with being part of the Elite Property Tribe is you don't need to panic, because I'll be providing you with also lots of leads to follow up. So if you're worrying about, I can't find leads, all you need to do is give me a location and we'll provide you with a list of leads if you want on a weekly basis so that you can follow up. Now, the one thing it says, we require you to make a call and find out some key information. Then my team will package it and sell the deal to our investors, and new leads will be released weekly. So we can do this pretty much all over the country, but we need people. We need people to be able to make those calls. If you're not making those calls, we won't release the leads for the following week or the following month. So here's some of the guys in the tribe that have done extremely well. We've got Ashley Walker, who's now built a portfolio of properties without any of his own money. We've done Bavneet, who's actually gone off and done rent-to-rent deals without any of his own money, and he's actually sold rent-to-rent deals. We've got Lenka, who's sold a number of property deals. We've got Ale, who's actually built a portfolio of, he went from 7 properties to 17 properties, and he kept all the properties. Remember, you don't have to trade all the properties that you find. You can actually sell them onto the investors, or you can actually keep them for yourself. Remember, can I buy, sell, or rent? Amanda has done multiple deals whilst being in the tribe, and Adam has actually done in excess of 50 deals being in the Elite Property Tribe. And these are all guys that are still within the tribe and very active. Now, as part of being an EPT member, you can also leverage the use of the Property Investor app to negotiate deals with vendors, and you can become the go-to person in your area. So when you're speaking to agents and they need to know, so that they're not just speaking to Stuart Boswell, then in actual fact they're speaking to Stuart Boswell, who's part of a larger network of the Property Investor app. So just a recap, and then we're going to go into some questions. So what we're offering is 52 modules of online training, fortnightly deal clinics with me. You can have shadow days with me all throughout the year in my office. Now you can do daily 10-minute calls to discuss opportunities and support. We have 4 live virtual meets throughout the year. You have access to all 400 hours of previous sessions and live meets. You can JV and you can sell your deals to my database. When we say JV, it is specifically about selling the deals onto investor database. We don't invest in the properties, so to speak. You can access all of my useful contacts, and we've got the EPT WhatsApp group, and then you've got access to all the contracts, templates, and spreadsheets just to go on. So I'm going to leave this up there for a second. So if you want to join the Elite Property Tribe, you want to know some info, you've actually got the links in this. You've actually got the links in your chat. So let's go through some of the questions. So Nadim says, do you run this in or close to London by any chance? Nadim, believe it or not, it's all online, so you don't need to physically come in person unless we actually do the live meets, and they are predominantly in Wolverhampton. So you don't need to physically come and see any properties. You don't need to physically leave your house to do this. All you need is a laptop and a mobile phone. So Sadie says, do we need to be part of the tribe to put deals on the app? You don't need to be part of the tribe to put deals on the app. However, if you come to us with a deal and you put it up on the app and it doesn't meet the criteria, we don't appraise it, we don't say yes or no. All we'll do is say, sorry, this one's not for us. And then that'll be for you. So you won't have the ability to understand the different types of deals and how to negotiate them without being part of the tribe. So Stuart says, you just use Airbnb for service accommodation. So no, there are lots of different platforms. You've got Airbnb, you've got booking.com, you've got, you just caught me on the hop, you've got VRBO, you've got Silverdor, there's so many, you've got Expedia, you've got TripAdvisor, you've got so many different platforms, Stuart. So don't just limit yourself to one. Okay. Okay, so Adam, Ahmed, so if you want to message me, Ahmed, you're more than welcome to send me a message and then I can speak to you about that. So Nadim says, how long did the refurb take on the Manchester property? So it's taken just over 2.5 months, but we are aiming to complete it by the end of January. That was on the Manchester property. So, okay, so Juliet says, what does the 5-day property challenge cover? So with the 5-day property challenge, believe it or not, let's just have a quick look. So in the 5-day property challenge, what we're going to be covering is that we're going to be going through all the property strategies as an overview. Off the back of that, on the Monday, we're going to have a webinar. On the Tuesday, we're going to have a webinar. And these are all going to be on specific strategies. So it's going to be training on Monday, training on Tuesday, training on Wednesday, training on Thursday. And then on the Friday, we're going to have a live event where I'm going to have you guys all in the office. And off the back of that, go onto the train, actually implement all the stuff that you've learned over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday into an actual deal. My aim is that within the first 5 days to get you your first deal, which hopefully is going to pay for your training program. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So let's quickly go back. So one of the things that we've actually put in for 2023 as well is so that you can pay monthly, you can pay in one payment. And then also, we're also putting in some additional support. So for guys that can't join the EPT for whatever reason, and you perhaps may want to fill in a couple of gaps, I'm actually running 1-hour coaching calls. And for those that don't want to join the EPT, but actually just want to do the 5-day property challenge, believe it or not, you have the ability to do that, but you won't be part of all the additional support that the Elite Property Tribe offers. So the Elite Property Tribe is the full 52-week program. It is the full year of support. It is the calls that the daily calls that you have. You have the fortnightly deal clinics. You have the support and the hand holding. But if you want something that's short, sharp, and fast, then obviously you have the ability to do the 5-day property challenge. Or if you just want someone to perhaps bounce ideas from, you've got the 1-hour coaching call. So I've kind of give lots of different avenues for you to get involved. Okay, so Sam, if you want to message me, Sam, and I'll put up. So Sam says, I'm interested in joining. So Sam, right, okay. So what I'll do, Sam, so you've got my email address, which is there. If you want to just send me a quick email and then put your contact details on, and then I'll have a quick chat about that. So, okay, so he says, how much is the challenge? How much is the consultation? So the challenge itself is the best part of £1,500. I think it's 1497, and the consultation calls are £250 a call. So they're the couple of things that, if you wish, then you're more than welcome to do those. But if you want the support, if you want everything that goes along with training and have someone that you can constantly keep banding stuff off, then the Elite Property Tribe is the program. So say if you Sam, I've just put the details up there. If you want to give me a call or if you want to send me a message after this, more than happy to help. The same with you, Ahmed. Ahmed says, are there investors pursuing other strategies in the tribe, opportunities for JVs? Now, good question. So there are lots of people in the Elite Property Tribe. I've been running the Elite Property Tribe for almost like 6 years now. And in there, we've got lots of people that are finding properties for their own needs. We've got properties that they're finding for other investors. And off the back of that, it works extremely well. Remember what I said from the outset, you don't have to source properties specifically just for sale. You can find properties for your own purpose. So if you're looking to build a rent-to-rent portfolio, you're more than welcome to do that. You don't have to sell them. Keep them for your own needs. You've got people that are out there. If you've got people out there that are actually just finding stuff just for investors because they don't want to acquire property, they want, again, we've got the investors for that. Sam says, can you show your details? Okay, sorry, so my details are there on screen right now. Feel free to, if you want to drop us an email, put your contact details, more than happy to help. Right, let's carry on with some of the questions. So okay, so Rose, if you want to send me a quick email as well, And if you want to send me a quick email, and then what I will do, I will have a quick chat with you about that, and we can go from there. Is that okay? So, right, okay. So Juliet says, how easy is it these days to sell deals to investors with the current high interest rate? Believe it or not, Juliet, it's actually fine. Remember, the one thing that I say to investors is that when they're purchasing a property, they're actually investing for near enough a 25-year period. Now, when you purchase a property, when you purchase an investment property, there's no guarantee that 25 years it's going to be plain sailing. And when you spell it out like this, is that in your investing time, in my investment period from the year 2000, I've seen the financial crash. I've also seen, now the likes of COVID. I've now seen interest rates hike. I've seen prices increase. I've seen prices decrease. I've seen, stamp duty rises, stamp duty decreases. Things like this is going to happen all the time. Off the back of that, that's what's off the back of that. It really does, you've got to go to them. You've got to go to them and say, well, it is a buyer's market. As she said, it's a buyer's market. It is an absolute buyer's market. And off the back of that, we've just got to get the deals done. We've got to negotiate slightly harder and go from there. So Tosin said, is social media marketing and ads part of the EPT modules? Believe it or not, Tosin, I've never actually had to do any Facebook ads. You can do Facebook ads and you can do marketing, targeting for Facebook ads. I can put you in contact with people that do that, but I've not needed to. And again, you're more than welcome to do that. So, okay, so where can we find your requirements to sell a deal on the app? So say there is no requirements, believe it or not, you upload your deal onto the app and then we just appraise what you bring to us. Does that make sense? We've got over 50,000 users and there is no, in theory, criteria because everyone has got their own criteria. So, right, okay. Right, okay, so Elton, so he said, I'm just in the process of uploading a deal, a few whilst we're speaking. Okay, so I'll be interested to have a look. I'll be interested to have a look at what deals that you've got, and then we can go from there, Elton. So let's have a quick look at some of the questions. Has anyone got any specific questions to sourcing that they want me to ask? Feel free to ask away, and I'm happy to look at it. Right, okay, so okay, right, okay. I think, okay, so Tony Singh says, I speak to estate agents on a regular basis, but for rent-to-rent deals, can we send these to the property investor app? Absolutely, Tony. So we sell property, we send rent-to-rent deals pretty much on a daily basis. And believe it or not, they actually sell really easily and very, very quickly. If you're working with estate agents, the one thing I say to you is just be 100% transparent from the outset as to what you're looking to achieve. When we say that, we want to make sure that you're not giving them the wrong information. When we say the wrong information, we're making sure that they understand that you're not the buyer and you're simply the facilitator. Does that kind of make sense? So hopefully that kind of answers any of the questions. If you go to them and say to them, I'm the buyer, and then they find out that you're not the buyer, it is going to be it's going to be a little bit awkward when you come to them with the buyer and it's not Tony Singh. So Nish says, what are the best marketing strategies for you? Oof, okay. Believe it or not, it all depends on what style of property that you're looking to attract. So if you want rent to rent, obviously it's not going to be the same strategy as if you're looking to if you're trying to attract a below market value deal. So it all depends on what you're looking to do. So if you want below market value deals, I wouldn't suggest looking at estate agents, because believe it or not, their estate agents won't be motivated to work with you because you're not actually serving them a purpose. You're in actual fact looking to cut down on their fees. So you need to go direct to vendor. How do you go direct to vendor? Which kind of find properties do you find? Are you now going to try and go against the agents? These are the questions that you've got to be asking yourself, Nish. And off the back of that, structure a marketing strategy off the back of that. Okay, so Melvin says, what is the percentage conversion of sale on your app? It all depends, Melvin. We're not here to throw out false promises. You know, all depends on the deal. All depends on the strategy. All depends on the cash flow. All depends on the discount that's offered. Off the back of that, and then obviously the location's a big key. And off the back of that, we can have a look at that. So, but if it ticks all the boxes, it can sell within an hour. Sometimes it may take 7 days. But again, going back to my scenario is that we don't proclaim to sell everything. The same way that an estate agent cannot proclaim to sell every property. If they did, there would never be any properties for sale on the open market, full stop. There are all properties that still are there for sale, and that's as a result of not being sold. Hopefully that's answered your question. So if Rose, if you're still online, one thing that you forgot to put on your email was your phone number. If you wouldn't mind just putting your phone number on, that would be much appreciated. Let's just have a quick look at any of the questions. So, okay, so Melvin says, thanks. Is access to EPT investor list equivalent to posting a deal on the app, or they're two separate lists? So you'll never get access to my list, if that makes sense. And the reason being is that obviously that's the list that I've had and I've built up over 20 years. So what you'd do is you'd be putting it out, would be putting it out to the app. But the beauty of obviously being an EPT, the EPT, is that you get all the support that goes along with it. So having a look at what is a deal, can we structure the deal in a slightly different manner? And these are the benefits of obviously being in the EPT, the support that you get, the hand-holding approach that you get, and off the back of that, making sure that the deal is the best that it can be. I've had EPT members that have come to me with deals that they thought were going to be below market value deals. In actual fact, we've restructured them as either even better below market value deal, and as a result, created almost like a lease option deal. We've actually got one call tomorrow with an estate agent. So there's going to be me, the EPT member, and the estate agent, where we're restructuring the deal as a result and making it the best that it can be. So, okay. So Tosin says, how was the London sourcing property in 2022? Is it more challenging to find deals and investors in London? No, believe it or not, we don't actually get enough deals in London. People tend to find, and this is the honest answer, is that people tend to start sourcing all up north because the cash flow is better. But believe it or not, there are lots of deals to be done in London. So I want more people to do more deals in London. Okay, so Juliet says, as most of the strategies require refurbishment, would you recommend great builders, renovation contractors? If I joined you, I'd show you how to find great contractors. Are you looking to take these properties on for yourself, or are you looking to actually sell these properties on to other investors? Because if you're looking to sell them on, you're working too hard, Juliet, is the honest answer. So it would be good to, okay, so if you're not looking to take them on, why are you, okay, so sorry, so Rahul says, can you just quickly, so if I quickly, I'm just sending you this, Rahul, privately, is that okay? So I've just sent you that, Rahul, privately. He says, can you send me the links, please? So that's just been sent. Okay, so but even then, Juliet, you still don't require the quotes. I think if you're going off and getting all the quotes, you're working too hard. What you can initially do is put in a provision, and we'll show you how to put the provisions for the costings. You don't physically go out and get the quotes, because by getting the quotes, you're wasting a lot of people. When I say wasting a lot of people's time, you're getting someone to quote on work that on a property that you don't even know that you've sold yet. Now, if I was a builder and you were asking me to come out and quote on a property that you've not bought or you've got no intention of buying, I'd be a little bit miffed, if I'm honest. So okay, so if you're hoping to keep them, yes, I'll show you how to get the best possible deals from builders as well. So if you've got any questions, let me know. And then off the back of that, yeah, happy to help, Juliet. Okay, so Rahul, I've done that. So good to hear your one-to-one with members. Is there capacity to intake to keep it accessible? Yes, we don't really take on any more than 30 people. Yeah, I've never really taken on any more. The average is between 20 to 25 on average. You know, we've never taken on more than 30 people in the 6 years that I've been taking this. So it gives us that ability to service and speak to everyone and make sure that everyone's happy, and we're looking at the deals that you're looking at, Ahmed. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so Tony says, how are you finding properties in negative equity? I'm interested in assisted sales to add value, but would like to know where to find these. Believe it or not, Tony, there's no way of specifically trying to target. Well, you can target, but that would be more along the lines of Facebook adverts, where you're having to try and target the adverts to find people and put your advert in front of people that are in potentially financial hardship or where their mortgage is up for renewal. That's what I would strongly suggest there. Ahmed said, thanks, I'll be in touch this week. Okay, brilliant. So let's have a quick look. I think I've pretty much answered. So, okay, I've pretty much answered all the questions. If there are any other questions, feel free, to get in contact with me. You can contact me. Best thing to do is that if you want me to answer your questions that you may have, you can email me, which is arsh@arshilahi.com. And make sure when you do email me, please put your contact number in, and I can give you a quick call back. I'll maybe call in a couple of people back this evening, and then we can go from there. So guys, on that note, I wish you all to be safe, well, happy. Hopefully you've enjoyed the session. Hopefully you've taken something away from it. And I look forward to speaking to you all very soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.